what was his position? And we're still talking about it. 1957, and here we are in 2022 having this conversation. Clarence Hill Jr. has covered the Cowboys since 1997. By my math, Clarence, that's 25 years of dealing with all sorts of Cowboys drama. And I don't know if there's anything comparable to this in your career of covering the Cowboys. First of all, what did you think when this story came across your proverbial desk? And what were your thoughts about what to do with it?
Well, a couple of things. The picture it's not the first time the picture surfaced. This is just a resurfaced picture that the Washington Post, obviously this story, they're doing a story on race and NFL and owners and minority hiring. And they use this as a jumping off point for the story and draw conclusions on Jerry Jones's impact on race and NFL. And so I would say initially, just from my dealing with Jerry Jones, I don't think the picture has anything to do with how he runs the Cowboys and how he handles business with the Cowboys and in regards to minority hiring. Seeing the picture, though, certainly it's startling and disappointing. I grew up in the South. I grew up in Texas. I know what that picture means. My parents are roughly Jerry Jones' age, a little older than that. And so we can see all of that. We know what that means. And it was disappointing to me that he initially said that he was just a curious kid and didn't know what was going on. How could you not know? How could you not know what was going down? That was a seminal moment in our country's history as far as desegregation in schools and the situation at Little Rock, where they had to bring in Little Rock Central. Everybody knows about the Little Rock Central. This is the North Little Rock 6. It was at the same time as Little Rock Central, and they had to bring in first the 1,000, state guard had blocked students from going to Little Rock on the first day of school. This was 5 days later at Little Rock Central when these other 6 students tried to go to Jerry Jones' school. And so to me, to say that you didn't know what would happen or what could happen and you were just curious, well, you may have been curious, but how could you not know?
And that's part of it, Clarence, right away that got me when I saw it, because I said, now I know every other quote that follows that, I'm going to have a hard time believing. Because what do we know about that time in history? This was a major issue in the country, in particular in Arkansas. The story was all over the local news, the state news, the national news. In fact, Jerry acknowledges in the story that his head football coach had told the players not to go because there could be trouble there. And the other thing is, if you were so curious, it wasn't older white segregationists who were up at the doors blocking those students from going in. Look at the picture, it was all students. So for me, that was the hard part in terms of accepting that. But having said that, I'm not even trying to hold Jerry Jones accountable for that. It's what's happened since then. And what I found fascinating in this story was that Jerry acknowledges that he has the power and the influence to make change in the NFL as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so my question to him would be, why haven't you used it? If you have that power and you believe in these things, why haven't you used it? And Clarence, you would know better than anyone, having covered this team for 25 years and knowing Jerry the way that you do. I would ask you, why hasn't he used his influence to make change?
Because Jerry does not want to be a change maker as it relates to race. He wants to be a change maker. He wants to be a change maker as it relates to money. And he, out of his own words, every decision he makes is about business. His hiring practices, he has not hired a black coach or not hired a black coach because of money. Or because, of race. He's hired a guy because who he thought was the relationship wise or was the right person for the team. And even going back to the anthem protest, which I wrote before, his issue was not necessarily the protest. His issue was it was hurting my business. And he has, in every decision he makes in his mind is about helping his business or helping you do business. So he will point out that I support my players, my black players. They all support me, from Michael Irvin to Emmitt Smith to Deion Sanders to Nate Newton. I have made them rich. I have advised them business-wise, and I do whatever I can to his words, to help them, give them influence to help their own cause or help their community. That's his mindset. Just a backdrop. Now, I just want to put a couple of backdrops in there. Because we can kick his butt for what he did or didn't do or hasn't done. All this is nuance. Charlotte, his daughter, went to Little Rock Central on purpose because she wanted a diverse upbringing. This is the same guy that was, with the North Little Rock 6, but his daughter went to Little Rock Central, went to high school Little Rock Central. The Cowboys do have one of the most diverse coaching staffs in the NFL right now. If you look at the sheer numbers of minority, they have the only coaching staff with all Black staff of strength coaches. But just sheer numbers, them in Tampa Bay are at the top of the list as far as diverse coaching staff. That's not done by intentional. It was not intentional. That was Mike McCarthy and his relationships. But Jerry did not get away with that. This tells my football team, I want to do that. But as far as being an agitator for race, being an agitator for minority hiring, he's not ready to step in that role. And I wrote, and certainly as you said, he certainly can do more. He knows he can. He knows he has the power to do more. He has so far chosen not to.
He also said in that article that he now wants to be, and I'm quoting here, looking at it, I want to be the first in line in terms of making a difference when it comes to diversity, which I found fascinating. And my question is, how does he do that? Because we've heard words from a lot of people on a lot of issues. I'm about action now. I don't need to hear your words, what you say you stand for. I need to see action of show me what you stand for. So when Jerry says in this story, I want to be the first in line in terms of making change now as it relates to diversity, what does that mean for Jerry Jones?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, because from the outside looking in, the only thing they can do is hire a Black head coach, right? Right now he has a coach. He's not getting ready to make a coaching change. We don't think, of course, that could happen. That could change depending on how they end up in the playoffs.
That's right. That could happen soon.
That could happen soon. But, he has Will McClay there, who's his de facto GM, who's the lead scout. I talked about, the numbers of assistant coaches in the pipeline, who have opportunities to grow from here and become head coaches. Certainly, they do a lot of things within the community as far as minority internship program for local coaches. They're doing some things. Again, that is not a intended or intentional thing, but it's people in the organization. They have Juneteenth off now, but it's a holiday. They have a Black employee network. They have a lot of things have come up since the George Floyd. They have a Black employee network and different things like that. But again, can he influence other coaching openings, other coaching? Can you put coaches in position to get jobs? That's what you want to know, because again, until it comes to the point where he needs to hire a coach and he takes that step, we won't know. It is just work.
Here's my thing, Clarence. Can I say this real quick, Michael, in part?
Go ahead.
As you say, for me, as I look at Jerry, and I clearly don't know him as well as you do, although I do know him, relationships are transactional to him. That's the way I view it. It's not personal, it's not emotional, whatever, it's transactional. What can you do to benefit me? And particularly, what can you do to benefit me from the bottom line? So from that standpoint, that's troubling to me. And even going back, and this, Clarence Shellman, the former running backs coach of the Cowboys, who once said on the record that another team was interested in hiring or interviewing Clarence to become an offensive coordinator. And at that time, where teams could block interviews, Jerry never told Clarence that another team had reached out to interview him for a offensive coordinator position. Why? Because if Clarence were to leave, Jerry thought it might hurt his team. At least that's how it's been explained to me.
Oh, no doubt.
So,
no doubt.
Having said that, here's what I would say as we talk, and I'm trying to move this forward, because again, I'm not focused on 57. Right. If Jerry is serious now about moving to the front of the line and leading the charge on change as it relates to diversity, here's one thing he could do for me. He could change the ownership rules in terms of purchasing a team so that minorities, Blacks in particular, have a better opportunity to purchase an NFL franchise. Because as you guys know right now, to purchase a franchise off the top, you have to write a check for 30% of the value of that franchise, right? And if we're talking about the Washington Commanders selling for $8 billion, that means whoever purchases that franchise will have to write a check off the top, not have a net worth or gross value or any of that, but write a check for $2.4 billion. How many people do you know, and particularly people of color, who can write a check for $2.4 billion? And so for me, Jerry, you want to make a difference now? Have the NFL rewrite those rules on the guidelines for purchasing an NFL franchise to make it more accessible to people of color and minorities. That's something he could do for me.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's the tough part. We talk about, the hiring of black coaches and our process. Well, if we have black ownership, you'll get more black coaches. And how do you open that door, break that glass ceiling for black ownership? We've had Byron Allen. Certainly, he's interested in the Washington Commanders. He was also in the running in Denver. And you have, I think Jay-Z is going to make a bid with Bezos, for the Washington Commanders job or ownership. The question is, will he be the controlling owner? I mean, it's one thing to be part of a group, but if you don't have the controlling power, it means nothing.
Absolutely. And that's why every time I hear this brought up about Jay-Z or other entertainers, whatever, I don't want to hear it. I don't care that you're part of an ownership group. My question is, do you have the controlling interest where you have voting power as it relates to NFL matters? And if you don't, you're just a figurehead. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's the truth.
No, it's tough to be in that position. I wonder though, Clarence and Jim, I want to hear from both of you on this. Start with you, Clarence. What are we to do? Jim, you said you want to move it forward. Got it. We're moving it forward. But what are we to do with this? What are we to do with situations where, whatever it was from their past, somebody in their past, whether they're 14 or 24 or 34, they had something that gets your attention. And then here they are in the present day. Are we to hold them? Are we to dig more? Are we to push back? Are we to push more on why they were in that controversial position? Do we look at who they are and who they have been in the time that they've been in the public eye? Have we handle this information? Because Jerry Jones is not the first one. There's a reckoning or an attempted reckoning at a lot of people who have said some things, whether it's old tweets, old posts, old articles, old photos, whatever it is, and people are like, "Hey, what's up with that?" How do you handle it, Clarence? I want to hear you, and then Jim, I want to hear you on it.
I mean, the first thing is there's nuance to it, and certainly you have to recognize what happened and where they were, and then you have to look at where they are now, what they've done. And then I think that's important because, you can't judge someone at 14 years old. But by the same token, which I pointed out, I wrote a column about this, Emmett Till was 14, trying to be a kid. Tamir Rice was 12, playing with a toy gun, and trying to be a kid. And his situation became deadly. Trayvon Martin was 17, walking home, minding his business, eating Skittles. And so we don't get to pass off, he was 14, so it's okay. I mean, we don't get that privilege often. We get the death sentence when we're 14 sometimes. And so you have to understand that. I think that there should be some contrition there, some understanding, some empathy there. But again, you also have to recognize who they are now. And I think that with anyone, whether it's Jerry Jones or anyone else, what have they done? How have they contributed? How have they changed their lives? What's their mission statement now? And again, I don't look at that. I know people are looking at that and say, well, that Jerry was a racist then, as racist. I don't see him as racist. I see him as a capitalist. And how he handled his business is being a capitalist. Sometimes, a lot of times, those lines are blurred. Especially when you focus on money, not humanity.
Michael, me personally,
what do we do with it?
What do we do with it? I think, look, people.
Yeah, what do we do with it? Good.
People are allowed to evolve. And what I'm looking for when we talk about people such as Jerry Jones is, What are they doing now? I'm not going to forget what happened in the past. As Clarence said, there's a nuance to it. But when I look at Jerry's behavior, when I see someone who will put money over people, who will put profit over people, that's disturbing to me. I mean, the things that were going down when Colin Kaepernick took a knee and Jerry threatened his players, said anybody who takes a knee, they're going to be out of here, basically. That was extremely troubling to me, because what it said to me is that your pocketbook is more important than a human life, than a Black human life.
Yeah.
And that bothered me. I'm not going to lie about it. It bothered me.
Yeah.
And so this is why I say, to move forward, if you are serious, and I'm quoting him here where he says, I want to be the first in line in terms of making change as it relates to diversity. If you are serious about that, then let's get to work. Show me what you are going to do. Don't just tell me, because Jerry is the master deflector. I mean, he knows how to charm you. He knows how to change the subject when there's a question he doesn't want to deal with. You know, all of that. He's very skilled at it, and he's very good at it. But now let's talk about tangible things that can be done to show that you want to be first in line for change. And again, I go back to one of the biggest is, let's open up the ownership groups and make those more diverse. The fact that there is no Black owner in the NFL, to me, is shameful. It's shameful.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people in his position are like that, for better or worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jerry Jones is not a unicorn when it comes to that. That drives a lot of them. And I wonder, though.
No, but Michael, but hold up here. 1 second here. But this is why I feel it is imperative on us to call that out, to identify it and to keep a spotlight on it. Because if we just allow the issue to go back into the shadows, nothing's ever going to change. And you have to make them uncomfortable where they are. And so I've said before, go ahead, Clarence. I'm sorry.
I know. Unfortunately, it's always us having to make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
As a Black journalist, it's always us. If you notice, it's me and Newey or someone else having to ask the questions, and because no one cares. And so when you talk about keeping them accountable, we also talk about people in our industry. Because they give them a pass. It's not if the subject is not important to them. So when it's only us asking these questions and writing these columns.
Yeah, right. It's not just accountability. Shouldn't just be accountability, parentheses. I'm talking about you, Black journalists. No, accountability should be everybody. Everybody should be a part of it. That's an excellent point. Let me ask you both, because I was thinking about this yesterday. Clarence, I said this to Trotter after the show. You got to wonder, if you're saying this is not a new picture, this picture has been out there before, how did this picture get out there? Why is it resurfacing now? And what do you think the message is about the resurface?
Go, Jim.
Look, I'm just gonna say this to you from people that I have talked to in very high positions. They don't know with a certainty how it got out, but there are a lot of fingers pointing at Daniel Snyder. I'll just say that.
That's an easy layup. That's low hanging fruit, but and then everybody talking about what Daniel said, but Jerry and Daniel are very close. And Jerry's been one of the biggest supporters of Daniel Snyder. Obviously the first time he was in the pictures was this year when he came to the Cowboys game. Again, I don't know.
But even after the most recent stuff, their relationship hasn't changed at all.
I don't, because Jerry's still been the biggest supporter. I mean, with all the other stuff that Irsay is a totally different deal, but Jerry's been a huge supporter of Daniel Snyder and has stood by him. Regardless, I mean, it's not a new photo, However, I mean, so it doesn't take a journalist who's and you got to understand that they talked to over 100 people, from his hometown. They took a fine-tooth comb. And so that doesn't take much to find that photo, because again, it's been out there. There are a lot of people who were there at that incident, and they talked to a lot of people, that was there at that time. So and again, they went back into his background, his daddy and granddaddy, and all this other stuff. So I wouldn't think it would take that much for a very veteran and great journalist at the Washington Post to find that photo. But yes, it's a great story and narrative that Daniel Snyder did that.
Daniel Snyder.
And it's funny. It fits. Okay.
But yes, but let me say this too now. What have we said about Jerry? Many of his relationships are transactional. So now if he knows that the Washington Commanders can sell for 8 whatever billion dollars and that he's going to get a share of that, I think he might say, Daniel, it was nice knowing you. But it's time to bring that money. But hang on. Wait, when I say that, Clarence, there's history on my side here. Because when the LA market was opening up, remember, the vote was going from the relocation committee was going to the Chargers and the Raiders going into LA. And what happened? Jerry got involved and said, no. We need an owner with some deep pockets in there. And what did he do? He swung that vote for Stan Kroenke to get that LA market. So for Jerry, again, it goes back to history. Everything is transactional.
Oh, it is. And he's part of that market because he, does the concessions at the stadium. And, it's funny that Jerry makes so much, he makes so much money on the other stadiums. But that's, again, I love the story. I love the work that they did. I just don't think you can take that photo and say, this is why he has not hired a black coach.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a leap. It is a leap to make that connection from 1957 to 2022 in that particular case. I think so. But no,
let me ask this.
Final word, Jim.
No, it's just I'm not saying that you.
Then we got to go.
I'm not saying you can make that leap, but I'm saying can you also not say that somehow how he grew up and where he grew up hasn't influenced his decision making today in some way? Well, I just want to be clear on that.
No, but
that's all of us.
It also has an influence on how he relates to people because he grew up around a lot of black people, which is why he's great with his players and they love him. He knows how his dad was a damn, ran a circus in the grocery store. He's a seller. All those things, yes, everything he grew up with impacts him today. But again, I just think that photo and him being there as a curious kid, whatever you want to call it, is not why he has not hired a black coach.
Yeah,
I would say also, Jim.
It's not why he hasn't done more.
Right, but Emmitt Smith and Dak Prescott sure had to go through some stuff to get the money that they deserve, and I can remember another quarterback there who didn't have to go through it.
Because it's always about business, but they got their money.
I don't remember Tony having to jump through those hoops that they had to jump through. Am I wrong?
All I know is, listen, I was there. I agree, but the money was certainly different then than now. I mean, you still understand how the money has jumped, but Dak got all of his money, and he got the best contract ever because he only signed a 4-year deal. He's going to get paid again.
Right.
Zeke got all his money. Zeke got all his money. They got all their money.
No, I didn't say Zeke. I said Emmitt.
No, I agree. No, Emmitt had to go jump through hoops to get his money, and Michael did too. But again, you talked to Emmitt today, and he went in Jerry's office and learned business from Jerry Jones from the beginning of his career to the end of his career. And he swears by Jerry.
I would say also, Jim, just to answer that question, and then we'll put the music on because Clarence, you've been very generous with your time, but we got to go. We got to pay some bills. I would say all of us are products of who we were around and our geography and economics, all those things contribute to who we are today. The question is, and nobody really can answer this, the question is to what degree? So I can take the extreme. I could, if I had been around people who were extremely negative and destructive, to what degree do I absorb that and then display those behaviors today? Or the opposite. If I had been around a bunch of, Harvard professors, do I too become a Harvard professor by osmosis? I don't know. I don't know how it works. How do you do the ratio? What's the calculus? To what degree does your background and what you saw as a 14-year-old or 15-year-old factor into who you are today as a Jerry Jones? What's he, 80 years old, almost 80 years old?
80,
how does it factor
80.
in?
Yeah, I think that when you live a long life, you've had a lot of life experiences that that impact who you are. I mean, I grew up in a small town in Texas, population 2,500. I've been in a city in Dallas for more of my life than I was in that small town. I still have some of those roots, but I'm more of a city boy now. I have, I couldn't go live like that anymore. So, I mean, I think that's with everybody. I mean, this could go on because I always talk about Kyrie and everybody, not Kyrie, but Kanye, Yee. Everybody talks about, well, he's been impacted because his mother died, and that's why he's doing. I mean, I know a lot of people whose mother died and parents died when they were young, and they didn't go off the rails.
Right.
Everything that we do influences our life. You still have to be an adult and be accountable to your own actions.
Yeah. Well, Clarence, hey, man, really appreciate you. Thank you for bringing some context to this conversation, contributing to it in a major way. Always good to catch up with you. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.